Alright guys, so this is another fanfiction idea, and this is basically a lizard-centric story. Yeah, as in Kurt Connor's The Lizard. I've always enjoyed seeing The Lizard, and I thought this would be a lot of fun to do as like a lizard-centric story. Lizard's one of my favorite Spider-Man villains, not total favorite, that role goes to Dr. Octavius, but the Lizard's definitely in the top 10. So, the Lizard in this story, so this lizard story is, let's start off with a little preference, is that this is more or less a Kurt Connors who is still like fighting with the lizard persona, and what happens in this story is that he this is a time when he still had his wife and son, and basically before, you know, all of that happened. If you read a certain lizard story, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, this is more or less he had his wife and his son Billy, and essentially this is a Kurt Connors who is more or less like looking for a way to cure himself of the lizard and finally be a free man. And he's gone to Europe to find help from an old college professor who helped him get into herpetology and also kind of set the record for helping, like more or less set the stage for wanting to get into medical science and more or less set the stage for him becoming the lizard. Now, it's important to note that this is a lizard who is like more savage. This is but it still the lizard has an intellect. So the lizard is like clawing at Connor's brain constantly. He's just constantly like, let me out. And Connors is holding him back with like drugs and whatnot, but he is kind of like pushing it to become almost like a pill popper. Now, the thing is that Connors didn't want his wife and son to come along, but they insisted on coming along too because they wanted to be supportive. And they fly in, and they have to go to Germany. But when they land in Hamburg, they have to travel to this town by train. It's a 12-hour trip from Hamburg once they arrive. It's a 12-hour train ride. So it's a long, long train ride to get to this town to find the one person who could help Kurt Connors. But it's worth it. It's like it might be worth it if they can get rid of the lizard. Unfortunately, during the train ride, it gets held up. It gets caught by Hydra. Yeah, Hydra has taken over the train, and it's being led by Crossbones. And Crossbones and the other agents of AIM have one goal: capture Connors, because they've been tracking him since he took off. What they want is Connors' blood. They want Connors to either capture him, take a blood DNA sample, and then reverse engineer Connors' blood into making new reptile troopers, or B, force him into making new lizard monsters. And Connors wants neither of those things. Kurt Connors wants neither of those things for this whole ordeal. He wants none of it. So, sorry about that. Where was I? Oh yeah. So more or less, like I said, Connors wants neither of those things to happen. He wants neither to make or help make more lizard people. And Crossbones is like, well, we got a problem here, because I've set this train with explosives and I got your wife and son. So you can either come willingly or this is gonna get real ugly real fast. And Connors has only one option. He really only has one option: let the lizard loose. And boy, does he let it loose. Because the lizard's more or less talking in his brain. He's like, you know, these mammals think they're better than us. They're going to hurt your family. I'm the only one who can help you, Connors. Let me out, and I'll save your family. And Connors is like fighting the lizard, and he's like has a moment where like his hand turns all like scaly and clawed, because he's kind of like the frustration and anger and like just the anxiety of all of this is just kind of boiling over, and like he's like, oh my god, he's getting out, he's like his hand is clawing out, but then he has to more or less come to a choice. He has to make a choice, and he tells the lizard, more or less, he looks in the mirror and he sees like kind of like an Immortal Hulk thing where the lizard's in the mirror and he's like clawing at the reflection, and Connors tells the lizard, I will let you out, but you will not hurt anyone on this train, especially my wife and son. You will not hurt anyone else on this train other than Hydra. Do I? And then I will. And then he's like, but you're still going to try. And like the lizard says, yeah, but I have terms too. I'll agree to these terms if you agree not to kill me. Because he already knows what's happening. Like, the lizard already knows what's happening at the end of this train ride. So, the lizard is like, if I do this, we leave. If I agree to these terms, we leave. And I'll even, as an added bonus, I'll give you control of your body back. As a sign of good faith. So Connor's backed up against the wall is like, okay, do it. And he does it. The lizard gets out. Like, he lets the lizard persona out. And this lizard is just more, like, savage. He's more animalistic. Because this is, like, also building with... It's kind of like almost like a Hulk thing. Where kind of like... Why we see different kind of incarnations of the lizard is, like, there's different versions of the lizard in Connor's brain. This is how I would write it, at least. I should preference that this is how I would write it. Is that it's kind of like the lizard... Why he looks so different in so many iterations is because it's kind of like the Hulk, where every lizard is like a little piece of Curt Connors in all of them. So yeah, this lizard is more like animalistic. He also has like a frill. Like, he also has like a frilled lizard like frill that puffs out like the Dilophosaurus, and he doesn't spit venom, but he has that. And this is a lizard that like looks itself in the mirror and goes, I like it. And then a moment a Hydra agent opens up the window. Opens up the door to the restroom that they're in. He's like, oh fuck. And the lizard just rips him apart. So the lizard is out and like tearing its way through just Hydra agent after Hydra agent. And Crossbones has, like, it's kind of like if you haven't guessed yet, this is very much like Die Hard. A little bit also of a very cool Netflix movie that you guys should check out called Blood Red Sky, which has a vampire on a plane. This is kind of like that, another where that premise came from. So the lizard is like just tearing ass through, just ripping through people left and right, while trying to get at Crossbones, who again has like his family at gunpoint. At the same time, the lizard like comes across other people and like has to resist from killing someone. He's like, because he can almost hear Curt in the back of his head, like, you promised! Fine. So by the end of it, the lizard confronts Crossbones, and if I could write this as a comic, I would have this just be a balls-to-the-wall, bloody fight on a train that might explode and go off the rails. And at the same time, I would have maybe the Avengers with Spider-Man, who are like, hey, so Spider-Man, one of your enemies is on a train, and he's fighting Crossbones. Should we be concerned? Oh, we should? Let's go. So, yeah. By the end of it, the lizard gets his family, Crossbones is thrown off the train, is found and gets arrested, and the other Hydra, like Billy even sees his father as the lizard like tearing apart and eating Hydra agents that were holding him while he was fighting Crossbones. And like when he transforms back to Curt Connors, he's like, we should go home. We should go home, because now like the German authorities want answers, and the Avengers and Spider-Man are on the way. So, and also he has to uphold his whole thing to the lizard, his end of the bargain, because the lizard even goes, you go back on me, I will kill them both right now. Don't you go back on me, man. So that's how the story ends, essentially. With, like, Connors is like, he's never gonna stop. I'm stuck with him forever. So there you go, guys. That is pretty much my lizard story. You guys tell me in the comments below. What did you all think of it? Just comment below, let me know. As always, if you haven't already, hit the link below. Head on over to my Patreon, where, if you haven't already, if you hit the 4th tier, you can send me requests for me to do here on YouTube. But other than that, I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.